Life is a dream, time like a stream, carries our burdens away. Never despair, joys everywhere, love can befriend you today. Free from all cares, like birds on the air, soar above griefs and worries, sweet joy and be gay. Often on earth, things of great worth, worldly ambitions defy. Sometimes a friend helps us ascend, come from life's cares to the sky. Love is a star, though shining afar, it can guide us and help us to fly, to draw nigh. Love is a star, though shining afar, it can guide us and help us to fly, to draw nigh.
Good morning. This first reading is from Rays of the One Light, commentaries on the Bible and Bhagavad Gita. This is week 3. Is God present even there where there is ignorance? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. The Gospel of St. John, chapter 1, makes a reference to the divine light that is obscure to the rational faculty, but that enlightens our higher nature. The light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. Reason recoils from this statement with innumerable questions. What is this darkness? Is it conscious that it should comprehend anything? What sort of light would be capable of shining in darkness without transforming at least that part of the darkness in which it shines into light? Does this light shine only at night? And if so, why only then? The solution is that to divine sight, even daylight seems darkness. The sun itself, like the moon which shines only by reflected light from the sun, is but a kind of reflection of the cosmic light, which, being immaterial, is invisible to the eyes, but which is the great source of all material reality. In Autobiography of a Yogi, Paramhansa Yogananda describes his youthful visit to Ram Gopal Muzumdar, the sleepless saint, who lived in the vision of that hidden light. Around midnight, Yogananda wrote, Ram Gopal fell into silence, and I lay down on my blankets. Closing my eyes, I saw flashes of lightning. The vast space within me was a chamber of molten light. I opened my eyes and observed the same dazzling radiance. The room became a part of the infinite vault, which I beheld with interior vision. Why don't you go to sleep? Sir, how can I sleep in the presence of lightning blazing whether my eyes are shut or open? You are blessed to have this experience. The spiritual radiations are not easily seen. The saint added a few words of affection. This is the light that shineth in darkness. It has been described variously in the great scriptures. In the Bhagavad Gita, the 11th chapter, the devotee Arjuna is given an experience of the infinite state and exclaims in awe, If there should rise suddenly within the skies sunburst of 1,000 suns, flooding earth with beams undeemed of, then might that Holy One's majesty and radiance then might be that Holy One's majesty and radiance dreamed of. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om. 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 I'd also like to read from Whispers from Eternity. This is a book of prayers and poems by Paramhansa Yogananda. This is called Make Me Feel Thee Through the Touch of the Breeze. Father, let me feel Thee through the touch of the breeze, through the sunshine warming my body. Enter through my nostrils with the fragrance of flowers. Let me cognize Thee through my innermost thoughts. Forget me never, even if I forget Thee. Remember me always, even if I remember Thee not. Be with me always, always, always. We are here at the beginning of a new year. And as I mentioned last week, these readings from the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita follow a certain sequence. And they begin at the beginning. And as I said again, often on a Sunday morning, the first Sunday of the year is so close to Master's birthday that we end up devoting that Sunday to Master's birthday and sometimes don't even read this commentary on that first week. And so it's the one that says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, from the Bible. And then adding the commentary of the Bhagavad Gita, which explains that this word is Om, and that the reason why it's a word is because it's something you can understand as sound. Sound is vibration and duality, and the whole cosmic show gets unveiled then. In fact, this basically almost a few months, the readings are very cosmic. And it's important in a way to understand the nature of how God manifested this world, because of how we can then take inspiration in our own lives. And yet, as I said, because we don't read that reading in the beginning, sometimes there's this sense of, here we are already deep into January, and what about New Year's Day and New Year's Day resolutions and all these things. And so I thought it would be nice to share with you a short video of Swami Kriyananda speaking on basically a New Year's Day satsang. It was actually a few days after New Year's Day. But he gave a short talk. It's about 10 minutes. This was in 2007, and this is in Gurgaon in India. And this was at a time when everybody in Ananda, India was living together in the same place. And in fact, we can do the little secret thing. What was sweet on a personal note for Dharmini and me was that we had just arrived in India about 1 month previous to this. And so it was when we were very new in India.
When I listen to this music, I don't think of it as mine. It was given to me. And all I had to do was listen. And then it was there. I had to do more than listen. I had to say, I want a melody or a song on this particular subject which says these particular things. Once I had a clear idea, then I said, God, you do it. And He did. So many people think that if you give up the consciousness of ego, then how can you do anything? The truth is you can do much, much more, because then He can do it through you. And He's created the whole universe. There's nothing He cannot do. Whereas if we think that we are doing it, what we can put out is very limited and always thin. I've noticed so many times a composer, for example, will have a beautiful inspiration for about 5 notes, and then suddenly it falls apart. And the reason his piece of music is considered beautiful is because of those 5 notes. Then the ego comes and says, what do I want? How do I want to go? Do I want to go this way, that way? And it kills it. Well, today we are at the new year. And it's a wonderful opportunity to decide what we want to do with our lives from now on. There is a saying, today is the first day of the rest of your life. And we don't often think that way, but that's why we're given a chance with every new incarnation to just rethink it and think, what did we do wrong? How can we improve? The thought with which you die is what will determine your next life. Your last thought is your final exam for this life. It will be the sum total of how you have lived. But usually people die thinking, oh, if only I had had this, or if only I had that. And let's face it, nothing ever gives you what you want. Nothing. It's really very intriguing when you think that this whole show of Maya is based on Dvaita, duality. And for every upward wave of success, there has to be a downward wave of suffering and sorrow and failure. There has to be joy and sorrow balanced. And the sum total of all of our striving for who knows how many millions of incarnations has to be 0. It's sort of a frightening thought that we work so hard for nothing. And yet that really is what it's all about. And so it's very good for us to think not only, well, next lifetime I'll do better. We can start today. And this is why New Year's resolutions are a good thing. Because don't make too many. Just make 1 or 2 and keep them quiet, but make them severely and strongly and say, this is what I will do this year. Many times, if you want to overcome some habit, some failing in yourself, something you want to become better at, whatever it is, don't try for don't think about the whole year even. Think about today, for 1 hour I'm going to do it. And then if you can do it every day for 1 hour, then increase it to 2 hours. And then 3 hours. You know, one time I was worried because I used to be very sort of proud of my intellect. It was stupid, but I was that. And my guru tried to get me to to get over that, and I wanted to, but it's not easy to overcome these habits. And so I said, sir, it's so difficult. I want to do it. He said, habits can be overcome in a day. It's all a question of concentration of mind. And I found this was true, that when I really concentrated a different way, it was altogether different. Those habits are not you. The war of Kurukshetra between the Kauravas and the Pandavas is within every human being. We are all a huge nation of qualities. And some of those qualities fight against our own happiness. They are the Kauravas. Some of those qualities fight for our enlightenment. They are the Pandavas. And we must see at the end of every day, have the Pandavas won or have the Kauravas got a victory? And every day we should think back, what have I done? And any mistake that you make, just sort of build yourself a bonfire, like a Havan Kund, and throw all your mistakes and all your bad qualities and attachments into that. If you can do that every day, you'll find before very long you feel very free. And as every incarnation is a new opportunity, so every year is an opportunity. Every day is an opportunity. Every breath is an opportunity. In fact, if you want to overcome a bad quality or bad habit or attitude in your own mind, one good way to do it is inhale and make a strong affirmation here at the point between the eyebrows, then exhale and feel with that exhalation that you're getting rid of all the bad qualities, the bad habit. This is a technique which actually works. And I have seen that it does work. I've had long enough in life to test these things and try them out. They work wonderfully. Just put enough willpower into it. Don't let your mind say, oh yeah, I've tried that so many times, what's the use? No, you can do it. You'll have to do it sooner or later. Why wait incarnations? Why wait years? Why wait days? Why not do it right now? As my guru said, this is a quality in America that I like, this thought, eventually, why not now? He said that is what you should think of all the time. Now, I have just finished writing a book that may be as important as the Gita. It's called Revelations of Christ, proclaimed by Paramahansa Yogananda. And it's been an exciting adventure. I have taken on 1,000 myths. And people who like those myths are likely to lynch me. I'm going to be having a launch in Los Angeles. Nirmala thought we could have lunch before the launch. And I said yes, and then after the lunch we can have the lynch. But it does take on a lot of myths, but all in the name of clearing the air. It's sort of between an old yoga and a new yoga. And this too is a new age, a new era. We're living in a new era. And this is something I've explained in that book too, that it's no longer Kali Yuga as most Hindus think. That was a myth that was created at a certain time during the depths of Kali Yuga. But in fact we have entered into Dwapara. And the yugas are not 235,000 years. They're in fact, Kali Yuga is 12,000 years, descending 12,000 years, ascending. Dwapara, 2,400 years. Treta Yuga, 3,600 years. Satya Yuga, 4,800 years. This is something which I'd be willing to discuss it with you, but this is not my purpose today to go into that. However, what I do want to say is you can make this year a new yuga. So let's think of that. I don't want to talk a long time, and this is why they very graciously offered to sing for me as well as for you, so that I wouldn't have to talk too long, and let's have a nice open house and have some tea upstairs. Happy New Year.
It's very nice to be able to celebrate the New Year with Swamiji like this. And there are many videos of him on the internet that are also of occasions like this, which are a little more informal than sort of a big public talk or a television show or all the things that are also, of course, very valuable. Sometimes we just enjoy the sweetness as if we were just sitting in the room that we were in at the time of that was probably about maybe this twice as long as this room and not quite twice as wide, but still it was a small place. And so, at least in terms of where all the people were gathered, and it was a big gathering because it was New Year's Day. And it's interesting how much emphasis Master Tu put on the new year. Every year he wrote a letter to the students that tried to inspire them for this new coming year, and so much of it was on forgetting the past, leaving the failure. I mean, sometimes he would say something like, the previous year has been burned in the ashes of our failure, and you're kind of like, Master, where's this going? And then let us be born again, born anew, fresh, forgetting all of that. Okay, good. But it's such an important... Why is there so much excitement around the new year? It's almost inevitably because we're thinking, gosh, I hope this new year is better than last year. And sometimes last year was pretty good, but I want it to be even better. And yet what's so interesting is that's what we think on January 1st, compared to December 31st of the previous year. But then, of course, that December 31st was preceded by its own January 1st when we were starting out. You see, we're always coming from a previous year of hope, but we need that hope. And that hope really is what drives us. There's a hope, a belief that things can be better. Again, even if they're just fine. Sometimes everything going well is the problem. Have you ever been in a mood like that or maybe not you, but met somebody like that who everything's going fine, so they cause some problem? Just because everything going fine is boring. Or they're not getting enough attention. So then, children will sometimes do that. If they can't get positive attention, they'll get negative attention. Here's the vessel, here's the metal spoon. Boom, 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 boom. Stop it. Oh, okay, you notice me. Okay, then. And sometimes we do that with Divine Mother too, although very often it's the opposite. She does that with us. As Nayaswami Haridas likes to say, Divine Mother, sometimes in our lives, she looks at our lives and she grabs the finances because she knows she'll get our attention. And so every year we need this hope. But as Swamiji said, it can even be every day, every moment, every incarnation. Every breath, Lahiri Mahashaya said, is a new incarnation. And it's really helpful in a way to think of, to try to come up with ways to inspire ourselves around this thought. For example, Swamiji once shared the idea that he was meditating and he was thinking about his attachment. In other words, he was trying to detach from his work. This was when he was a young monk in Master's organization. And his mind was a lot on how can we reach more people? How can we better organize things? How can we serve more people? And that was a very engaging thought and, a useful thought. It wasn't that he was just sitting there thinking of cookies or something. But still, he wanted to detach from that because he wanted to meditate. Let's face it, if we're thinking even about anything, we are not meditating. Master even said, though I don't know if I quite believe him, but he said, last night I was thinking about communities with so much excitement that I lost myself for a few minutes. And he said, then I chanted and then came back. And what he meant, by his words, was he got drawn out of himself into this excitement, and then he chanted and went back into samadhi. So would that it be so easy for us too? He says that too. That he said, center your consciousness in the spine. That's all I do. He said, I practice a few times Kriya, and then I'm in that state. Now we shouldn't think, well, that's what masters do. We should think that's what I want to do. Even whether we're practicing Kriya or not yet. It just takes one good meditation to get free. And as Swamiji said, why not now? Why not now? Just one Kriya, and you can be there. It will be eventually that, if it happens to you in meditation, that there will be the day when you do one last Hong, finished. No more Hong Sa even. You do one Kriya, one energy up the spine, gone. They will come. If it comes in meditation, it can come in other ways too. But that day will come, and why not now? It can be that fast. You've heard the story and you've seen the photograph of a picture of Yoganandaji, and he just looks so beautiful in a crowd of people, his disciples actually. And Swamiji explained for that particular photograph that Master said to the photographer, wait a moment, let me first go into samadhi. All right. It was that instantaneous for him. And so, as I said, Swamiji was meditating, thinking about the organization and so on. And so he thought, I want to detach. And he said, then he realized, what if I were to die today? What if this were my last meditation? And rather than being like, oh my God, what, no, not like that. If that's how you feel, then forget it. Try some other technique. But he said, if I'm going to die today, which, also means, by the way, that Master's going to come and open the door and you're going to get to see him. So, there's some advantages. He said, then I don't have to worry about any of this anymore. Other people will be taking care of it. God will be also taking care of it through other people. God will be drawing other people to Him through this work. Any thought that I have, I realize I don't have to worry about it anymore. And so try that sometime. If you find, whether in meditation or at another time when you're feeling a particular attachment. I remember once being in a very difficult situation where there was a lot of bickering and arguing, and somehow I seemed to be at the center of it. I didn't quite know how I found myself in the middle of it, but I was. And I had this image, which was a rather unfair image, but I had this image of this pack of wolves all sort of biting at me. And, I think there was some drama in that. Oh, the wolves are here. Just like, come on, the karma is here is really what it is. It's my karma. If it weren't my karma, they wouldn't be able to bite. So in any case, I just suddenly imagined, what if I blinked, like I sort of saw myself in this situation. What if I blinked and was out of the situation? In other words, like take a picture and there I am. And then suddenly take another picture and where I am, there's just an empty space. And then I sort of imagined, all the wolves would then just start biting each other. Because you have to bite something. And so, and then, start biting each other. And then, sadly, if all the wolves are gone but one, then it ends up biting itself. But in any case, I realized that it was just, they were in the mood to chew on something. And I happened to be the bone that was there. But it wasn't really personal. It wasn't really that they were attacking me, that they were my friends hurting my feelings and all the things that was just how I was taking it. It was really more that they were just in the mood for a bite. And I was really in the way. And that if I weren't there, the same energy would continue. And so not to be too upset about it. It helped me have a sense of humor about it. It's very important to find ways to develop a sense of humor so that we can let go. Swamiji said the sense of humor is one of the great advantages on the spiritual path. And he himself was a little shocked at Master's humor. In fact, first, before I say that, someone came up to Swamiji and said, now that I'm meeting you and hearing you lecture, you're so funny. And I'm kind of surprised. And Swamiji said, Master was. But he himself says he was a little surprised when he attended Master's first talk and there were all these jokes. And he thought that, again, you should be very sort of ponderous and serious when you say these truths. But Master, of course, was full of joy, so the humor was there. Sometimes Swami said Master would laugh so hard during the telling of a joke you couldn't even really follow the details anymore. But you just were laughing because he was laughing. And so, but also Master said, always share a funny story when you give a talk, because I don't know if he said this explicitly, but because we know when we laugh our heart opens up again. And so it's very important to find ways to laugh. I remember someone was talking about all the suffering they were going through, and they thought, maybe I'm taking other people's karma onto myself. And then they laughed because they thought, I think I'm taking my karma onto myself. It's just like, let's not have any sort of just glorious visions of anything. This is just mine that I'm dealing with. And when I said humor, Sairam started laughing, and it just at the word humor, you see how in tune he is. You can say humor, and he'll start laughing. See? But it reminded me actually once of a story I told him, which has nothing to do with anything except that it's humorous and happened to happen in Chennai. We were, I hope you think it's humorous anyway. We were in India, like I said, for just a few months. we'd been in India about 7 months at this point that this story took place, and we were living in Delhi, and we were, basically getting acclimated. It takes Westerners a little while to get used to India, and in different ways. It's not necessarily the things that you would imagine, or even that I imagined I would have a hard time with. But every now and then, you lose your patience, and then you realize what's bugging you. I remember once I learned how to stand in line in the queue, for example, especially in Delhi, that you take up as much space as possible. And I got a little thing to sharpen my elbows so that if anybody tried to come by, I could poke them. And then, that everywhere you go, you take up all the space. And so I was in line trying to buy something at the movie theater, and I, had found my way, and I'd finally gotten up and, done. And as I reached in, because I also learned, before you say anything, you put your money in the place. Like, don't you want to take this? And then you have to ask me, what do I want? So I put my money like this, and the guy behind me reached his hand under my hand to put his money there. And before I could even stop myself, I just took my hand and pushed his hand gently away. But I said, "No way!" Which is not something that if I'd had any self-control I would have ever said. But I thought, okay, I'm obviously, it's getting under my skin. So, and then occasionally you would get into problems like this where you would say, how much for the samosa? Oh, only 700 rupees. Like, okay, wow, on sale, is it? And you wait, it doesn't feel right though. 700 rupees, let's see, in dollars, that you get, basically cheated at different times. And again, you don't have to just be American to get cheated here, but still, there was that, starting to get a little bit frustrated. And it was building up. And what would happen is sometimes you would just be in a mood like, I bet I'm going to get cheated. And then even if the person is telling you the right price, you get, there's even a joke, it's a Hindi joke, I don't know if it will make sense, but if you know, dai is the Hindi word for 2.5. And der is the Hindi word for 1.5. And they're not very commonly used words these days. So there's a joke that because people are so out of touch with these abbreviations or whatever, that someone would say that someone's going to buy some samosa and the guy says it's der rupees. And he says, "You cannot rip me off. I know the price. It's dai rupees, And the guy's saying, "Sir, it's der rupees. Don't you try to cheat me. I know. My mother said it's dai rupees, So again, it's a universal feeling at times. But this was a situation that unfortunately took place in Chennai. I had been telling Dharmini, we have to get Mysore Pak, and you haven't tasted Mysore Pak until you've tasted it at Krishna Sweets. It's the best Mysore Pak and so on. So we went to Krishna Sweets, this is on R.K. Saleh, right, in Mylapore. Because my cousins lived near there and we were visiting them, so we managed to get there. And I went up to the counter, and for whatever reason, again, that feeling crept in, like, no one's going to rip me off. And so I said to the guy, how much, can we taste the Mysore Pak? So I tasted them, and I said, taste. She said, okay, it's good. So I said, how much is a half kg? And he said, 500. And I said, that's ridiculous! No way! And I stormed out of there. Can you believe 500 rupees for a half kg of Mysore Pak? And then we got home, and I had to break the sad news to my cousin, because it was like, she said, we love Krishna Sweets. I said, I know, but can you believe what they told me the price was? She said, that's surprising, because they're good people, and we never have that problem. Yeah, see. And then it was, I don't even remember when it was, maybe it was a day later that I realized, I asked him, how much is a half kg? And he probably was saying 500 grams. A half kg is 500 grams. So embarrassing. The poor, just imagine that same scene from his point of view. How much is a half kg? 500 grams. How dare you? Ridiculous. I mean, just mad dogs and Englishmen, just completely nuts. Okay. So anyway, humor can be helpful, even when you yourself are the subject of the humor. As I think there's a saying, learn to laugh at yourself and you'll find endless amusement. And so we want to always find ways to have this new hope, new ways of detaching from a situation, new ways to just take it lightly. Find a way to laugh at it. And again, the things that Swamiji mentions in that affirmation for happiness, find a way to be happy with beyond outward circumstances. And he mentions failure, disappointment, and misunderstanding by others. And we can just read those and think, okay, yeah, I mean, those are like things that spring to mind when I think of happy things. Failure, no, not so happy. But it's more than that. It isn't that he just picked, he could have said stomach aches and traffic and taxes. But he picked those three because I think in some ways those are the ones that hurt the most. If we feel we failed, sometimes it can really go deep. And it can even shake our courage to try again. If we feel disappointed in ourselves and someone else, it can sort of make us think. Maya starts to say, you see, I am right. And go, gosh, I didn't think so, but... And then misunderstanding by others. That's another one he brings up in another song. The song is, in my heart, Lord, ever so silently I will always think of Thee. That's the message that we repeat. But then he brings it up in different situations, and one of them is, when I laugh, oh, when I cry with pain, when my best friends misunderstand. And again, it could have been anything he could have put in there. When I laugh, or when I cry with pain, when I stub my toe on the floor. That's not the big one. It's when my best friends misunderstand. And so sometimes God has to do that to us. And it doesn't seem fair. But it's actually a part of duality. It's a part of karma. Where, as Swamiji said once, when we become too attached to something outward, something that's not God, then God has to use that very thing to betray us. And it's not because he's saying, that'll fix you. It's because he's saying, look, if you're going in error, the only way I can correct the error is to show you the outcome. And again, it's not just that all these people don't understand us and our delicate purity. How many times do we misunderstand someone? I misunderstood that poor guy at Krishna Sweets. It was a year before I could go back to that store. It was a year before I came back to Chennai. But anyway, still, it's just like, how many times do we get the wrong message and then blurt something out? And so it's part of being human. And I don't mean that that's our destiny. I just mean that, as Sri Yukteswar said, human conduct is ever unreliable until anchored in the divine. And so we want to become anchored in the divine. Then you can be right even by accident. Because you just sort of have an intuition or a feeling to flow in a certain way. Master said, anything that I have a feeling for turns out to basically be, to prove to be that it was God's will or that it was the best solution, even a trivial thing. I don't know if he put it that way or Swamiji did, but I know Master said something like that. Because he said, for example, there were some people who came and wanted to visit me, called, and I said, why don't you come on Friday? And they said, no, Thursday would be better for us. So they came on Thursday. And he said, well, Thursday it was pouring rain and very difficult to move about. And on Friday the sun was out. It was beautiful. It was just a small example of how not only his intuition was guiding to the right thing, but also that when he said something they resisted. No, we have this opinion. We're going to do it this way. It just reminds me of something else that was kind of a little bit miraculous. We had wanted to have Jyotish and Devi give their talk at Asha Nivas, at this hall that Swamiji had spoken in. And so we called months in advance to reserve it, and the fellow said, actually, no, we're sorry, that hall's not available for like 3 months. It's like, somebody is having a long course and they're renting it every day from basically February through April, and just like, gee, okay, well that's odd because Swamiji spoke there and we have had other events there, and it's just kind of a nice hall. We didn't want to do something too big this time, something more manageable. We have so many events there, it kind of feels like our satellite place, and they're saying Ile. It's like, huh, okay. And so it was rock solid, and then we started thinking about trying to find other places, and I spoke to Jayaji on the phone about it, just sort of in passing, and who, by the way, Jaya is coming in 2 weeks. I say that only because I said to Jaya, so what do you have planned for the next few weeks? He said, well, I'm going to go back to Pune, and then in a week later I'm going to come and see you. And I go, yeah. That's right, of course, yes. It's forgotten. So he said, what about Asha Nivas, that hall that we've had there? That would be a perfect place for them. I said, I know, and we called, and the guy said no, and all these things. And so then a day or two later I was thinking, and I just had this, why not try again? Because when Jaya said, what about that place? It reminded me of what Swamiji used to do. Swamiji would say things like that all the time. Something that was impossible or already settled, and he would say, what about that? And the rational mind comes in and says, actually, yes, I know, but we can't do it. And so when Jaya said that, it kind of lingered with me. It reminded me of when Swamiji would say that. And so I was washing dishes or something, and I thought, why don't I call them back and just say, this event that we want is on a Sunday afternoon. Maybe your guy with his mega course could end a little early on a Sunday. If, they've been going every day, 7 days, they might not mind a little break. He could even end at 2 and we could go in early, or maybe they could skip that day. Let's just see if we could work with him at all. It's his reservation, but what might be possible. So I called the fellow at Ashanivas and I said, can we have the hall? Is it in this thing, and maybe Sunday evening? And he said, yes, you can have it. And I said, oh, don't you want to talk to the guy? He said, no, he's canceled his reservation. It was just like that. And so now we'll be in that hall. And it was just, then you start to wonder, what if Jaya hadn't said anything? What if we hadn't, all those things, but there was just a few whispers from eternity, saying, why not try this? And suddenly it all worked. And something we had been thinking about for a little while, and I sort of heard Master saying, well, you have to let me do my part too. I've got to do something in this whole show. So when there's a hurt, when there's an attachment, when there's a distraction, try to find a way to step back from it, and then maybe something new can come in. Whether you again visualize, what if this is my last day on earth? There's another way to think of it too, though. We don't want to get so detached that we then just become detached about our own spiritual progress. I'll find God maybe. I don't want to have likes or dislikes, so I don't either like or dislike God. No. And you may laugh, but it's a trap that we can get into. We can try to calm the heart so much that we become dead. And we try to let go of desire so much that we try to not feel. Nothing will disturb the peace of my non-feeling. No, that's not the way to live. Master wasn't like that. Swamiji wasn't like that. But it can be another trap, especially with renunciation. Not this, not that. Nothing disturbs me. But then nothing motivates me either. So it's a tricky thing. And so that desire which removes all other desires is the desire for God. It is okay to desire God, absolutely. And what does that mean? To desire joy, to desire love, and also to love. If we put out that love, it brings us to that reality. And so it's very important. I was thinking the other day about sort of being stuck in meditation, where we feel like I'm not going where I want to go. And that's fine. Maybe I'll just wait and the weather will change and then I'll be able to go where I'll go. Meanwhile, I'll keep putting in the time. Now, better to put in the time than not put in the time, but still, it's not a very sort of inspiring thing when there's a kind of a crummy feeling like that, there's always a way out. Sometimes we find it, sometimes we don't. And if we don't find it, that's fine. Just try again tomorrow. Sometimes the test is to feel blah and to just keep going. As Sister Gyanamata said, when devotion is lacking, duty must fill the breach. And it's a very helpful thought to say, look, I'm not getting a lot of joy out of this, but I know it's the best thing. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it anyway. So in this particular thought, I thought, okay, well, what if when we get stuck in meditation and, we want to be free, but we're not free yet? Then I thought, what if I have had this thought for the past 100,000 incarnations? Just like, yeah, I'm sure it'll get better. It wasn't bad, but, I'm sure it'll get better. Like those planes that can't land. Although, of course, we want to take off, but you know what I mean. Yeah, maybe take off. Like those planes that can't take off. If you've ever been in a plane that you go onto the runway and then you can't take off because of whatever, so you have to sit there. It's like, what if I've been sitting in this plane for days? I don't remember that it's been days, but what if I've been in the same position? No one is laughing, so I better say the point. The point is, let me get to work. Let me do it now. Let me say, Master, come now. Let me feel. Look, whether I'm getting inspired or not, I'm going to be inspired. I'm inspired by, a nice trick also is to think of 5 things that you're grateful for. And think of new things. I'm grateful for Appa, I'm grateful for Amma, I'm grateful for my wife, I'm grateful for my family, I'm grateful for my kids, I'm grateful I have food. And then, fine, good. But then not every day, I'm grateful for Appa, I'm grateful for Amma. No, find something new that you're grateful for every day, even in that moment. And you find, the energy starts flowing. When we feel dull, it is because our energy is blocked. I don't mean that in a heavy way, like, well, your energy is blocked. It's your fault. I don't mean it like that. What I mean is find a way to move the energy. Find a way to open the heart. And then everything flows.